talking big shit, nigga, join my hit. This nigga, what's the matter? Check your matter, I'm the shit. This nigga, shoot the witness, nigga, hold court in the streets and convict this nigga, old dick. This nigga, man, I'm running with the fucker. Young money, motherfucker, you think we gon' do a thing right? Ain't it sunny in the summer and we coming for the company?
That this was the birthplace of the human race. New Guinean tribesman, Parisian bartender, American teacher, Polynesian farmer, all were improbable relatives linked through one black woman 150,000 years ago. Their findings caused a sensation.
The responses of people were sort of amazing. The public was genuinely interested in certain aspects of it, but there was a tendency to misinterpret the data because of the terminology used to describe this woman, African Eve. And people thought it meant the biblical Eve, the single woman in the Judeo-Christian Bible of the wife of Adam. I have to say, even my own uncle sent me a Christmas card the year that our study was published saying, "How dare you, you know Grandma wasn't black."
Wish I could, but I can't say some other names cause of the fans and some of blood's cold way. Man, you know how we play it. If it costs to be the boss, oh well, I guess I gotta pay. I'm a New Orleans nigga, I don't take no shit. Take the brain off the whip, now it don't make no sense. Start hard on these bitches, I ain't promised tomorrow. Now women kicking it with me like no more Garcia Parra. Fuse roll of killer plants, the little shop of horror. And we roll them bitches thick, make them look like Shakara. Man, I'm too much for these niggas, and too much for these hoes. The world is in my hands, and I keep my hands closed. I love my baby mamas, they get my highest kind of.
There are some people in Africa who don't look like each other, who are genealogically more closely connected. Okay? And so any idea that you had to populate Egypt from the Near East even 50, 60,000 years ago is not necessary. There have always been migrations back and forth, but to explain super-Saharan Africa, as I like to say, based on migrations from Eurasia is not well-founded. The Nazlik Qadrs have always been people who were lighter skinned and straighter haired from 60,000 years ago. Always. They're not new. That's my whole point. In fact, I could make the argument that those kinds of characteristics actually originated in Africa. Yeah. That they didn't come from someplace else. Yeah. They're part of modern humanity, or they're a part of humanity. And there's no reason to believe that they could not have originated in Africa. Incidentally, skin color can flip back and forth from an evolutionary point of view, we now know, every 15,000 or so years. It's not the sort of thing that, you know, it takes 100,000 years, million years to live in one place. And skin color itself is not always an accurate index, even in current situations like in Brazil and Venezuela. It doesn't necessarily give you a proportionate amount of ancestry. You can have people with very fair skin, but actually have more, quote-unquote, black ancestors than some people who are actually darker. So you have to be very careful about what you think you can quantify from that, again, based on science evidence. I was quite astounded when I found that when the Y chromosome data got produced, they didn't have that 25 years ago when I first started on this adventure. But I am pleased to say that I wrote, and you can get my master's thesis, I said, there's no theoretical reason why these Berbers from Algeria couldn't share common ancestors in the late Pleistocene. And sure enough, 20 years later, when the DNA came out, because what most people would say is they look at these Berbers, and I have pictures of them, they say, oh, these are descendants of the Vandals, because they look like Europeans. Well, I'm trying to have you understand that God or evolution, whichever one you want to choose to work with, works in mysterious ways. And I'm trying to have you understand that from a scientific point of view, that PN2 marker, that PN2 gene, ties 70% of the continent together, and there's some other things that are basically only restricted to Africa, except for the odd one you find outside, groups A and B. These belong to the E group. We can talk about that later. But no, what you're saying is that if you don't have some hard and fast boundaries, then it's hard for you to work with certain things. And I'm saying that would be like saying that if your son, if you had 6 sons and one of them moved to China and his descendants were only Chinese, and one moved to Greenland and his descendants were only Inuit, and another son moved to, I don't know, the Amazon and his descendants were only, you know, folks from the Amazon, that they wouldn't be your relatives. That would not patently be not true. Genealogically, they would all be connected to you because you're the grandpa. They're still connected. The idea that physical similarity will always track with relationship is what we're trying to get. I'm trying to dispel you of that notion because it's not always true. And so there's sometimes people who may look very similar, or when you measure certain things, they may appear to be similar based on the math, but in actual fact, using other measures and other kinds of information, you know that that can't possibly be true. A particular DNA marker here, PN2, is sort of the background, and that's what this means. It's the background of 73% of all of the peoples in Africa today. 73%. The PN2 is found in West Africa and sub-equatorial Africa. I mean, I'm sorry, the P2 or M2 as it's called. This M35, 215 M35, is what you find in the Horn of Africa up to Egypt and over to Morocco. It corresponds to the 5 and the 11 in the previous slide. This is the father of both groups of Africans. This binds the continent together, okay? So although you have Berbers with blue eyes and blonde hair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they share, for the most part, this PN2 ancestry with people in West and tropical Africa. This is the modern population. And they share much less of the M89, which comes off the tree, in another way. And try to say, Africans don't all look alike. So some of what you're calling Mediterranean people are just some more Africans. Okay? Now, you have to get your arms around that. And that's what that last slide was about with the PN2 transition. Because most of the people there who have that PN2 transition, that particular gene, that genealogy, in its derived form is M35. For example, Berbers are M35, M81. Those people don't look like Congolese. But I'm trying to have you understand that they are carrying genealogically, in terms of their male ancestry at least, they're carrying something that ties them to the rest of the continent and does not tie them to Europe, even though physically, externally, you may say, well, gee, they look like Europeans. You understand what I'm saying? Don't use those concepts of Mediterranean race, Alpine race, Nordic race, all that, that's from another era. You know, it's descriptive, and in actual fact, you will find, you can find individuals all over the world who might conform to one of those sort of categories. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So then,
take care of kids, man. I know you heard Obama. I live on the island, and landing in my backyard. I just tell my pilot to land it in my backyard. Quarterback shotgun, you don't get any sack yards. Bitch, I ball hard, breaking all our backboards. Pretty boy flawed, step up, I will crack yours. And even at the White House, we pull up in the back door. Walk around like I'm 30 feet tall. Tiger Woods, all these hoes trying to birdie these balls.
Whether or not statues, once again, accurately depict the people that they represent is a very interesting question. Now, I have a slide, but unfortunately I don't have it with me. Well, I have it with me, but I don't have it there, of some individuals who were depicted with little statues. And then when they reconstructed their bodies, and this is from southern Egypt, the people looked totally different from the statues. The statues had them looking, let's say, stereotypically, say, what we might think of northern Egyptians. But when they actually reconstructed the people from their mummies, I mean, from their skeletons, and they did sort of forensic type analysis, the people looked just what you might expect from Upper Egypt. I mean, they had different kind of set of facial features that some people would say are, quote, more African. Although, as I want to point out, that the Somali with a nose narrower than the Swedes and a certain kind of facial profile is just as African as Kwame Nkrumah or you know, Sidney Poitier, you know, what have you. Well, there's more than one way to be African. There's more than one way to look African. There's more than one way to look Asian. There's more than one way to be Asian. That is what you have to, from my perspective as an evolutionary biologist, that's what you have to get your arms around. The people in southern India are just as Asian as the people in northern China, who are just as Asian as the people from the Eurasian steppes. You know, they don't look alike. And you measure them, they don't look alike.
Oh man, I just be chillin', I'm cool like Lou Rawls. Real money in the building, I'm putting up new walls. Nigga, take your missus off the sunset, some new laws. My flow is like rubbing two logs. Young moolah, we the new shit, new draws. Now get off my dick, I ain't fucking with you. Watch me shoot to the bank, I'm a money pistol. Weezy beat the beat up like Sonny Liston. Redbone do me good, then a friend or sister. I mean a bitch, she never met her best friend or sister. I leave the pussy Microsoft like Windows Vista. Young Tucci, pop that coochie for a goon. Don't let in your boys, memories like you ain't like you don't know. Eastside, who I do it for? Eagle Street, right by the stone. Katrina wiped the city out, but couldn't fuck with Hollywood. Lost some real niggas I knew from a long time ago. But heaven or hell, I hope that they be where I'ma go. Take a nigga, kill a nigga, come give me a private show. Still long hair, don't care like I never home. I'm the hardest shit, go in your ass and search. I smash this verse and I swag and surf, no ceilings.
Misconception number two. The ancient Egyptian linguistically is unconnected to the rest of Africa. This is not true. Ancient Egyptian is a member of Afroasiatic, a language family whose members are primarily in Africa, and according to most linguists who actually study Afroasiatic primarily, otherwise called Afrosan or Afrasian, it originated in Africa. What is the evidence for this? Linguists use two primary principles to locate the origins of a language family or a phylum. The greatest diversity principle, and also another principle called the least moves principle. The greatest diversity principle basically says that wherever you find the greatest number of members of a language family or of plants or what have you, is most likely, with few exceptions, to be its place of origin. In the case of Afroasiatic, 5 or 6 of the members, depending on how many members you believe are in the family, are found in Africa and Africa alone. The 6th member, or rather the 6th or 7th member, is found in the Near East, namely the Semitic family. And it actually returned to Africa on 2 separate or 3 separate occasions. One time with the Phoenicians, another time in the Horn of Africa, and also much later on in the Islamic period with the emergence of Islam in North Africa with the coming of people from the Arabian Peninsula. The other thing about language that's helpful is that loan words will often tell you about where institutions have come from. So when you look at, for example, in England, aspects of the English Constitution or some early documents, you see, of course, the Norman French. When the Queen opens Parliament, she uses Norman French. There's a historical reason for that. When you look at the words for high officials and what have you in ancient Egypt, major ritual objects, etc., these words are all local words. There's no evidence that they were imported from the outside. Okay?